What is going on, everybody? I've been promising you this for 2 days now. This isn't too long. This is quite short, but there's a lot of information in it. So it's the book of Nehemiah. So I'm not going to get into what the story was or any of it was, but basically, let's just start with the 12 signs. So the first sign I talk about is represented by Aquarius, which is represented by the man. So technically, Aries begins the beginning of the year, but Aquarius is kind of near our beginning of the year, so that's why I start off with that. It's a picture of a man with a water pitcher pouring it out. So there's key words here: son of man, man, because this is the sign of the man; baptism, because this is how you baptize someone; water pitcher, because there's a water pitcher in here; fountain, stream, river, pond, lake, ocean, sea, water bodies, or water bodies. Now Aquarius is an air sign, right? Whereas Pisces is the mutable water sign, which we'll get to in a sec. However, because there's water in this picture, when they encoded it, they used water to represent Aquarius as well too. And you see it throughout. And the only way that you can tell the difference between Aquarius and Pisces is based on the patterns that they make, which we'll obviously get into. You guys are used to hearing me talk about it. So Pisces is the sign of the two fish in the water. It's technically a mutable water sign. So all the same water examples. Now, Aries is the ram, and in Aries you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day, a 12-hour night. It's also the Passover, or the passing over of the sun over the equator and back on its way to its height in the summer solstice. In Christianity, the passing over is changed, and it's called the resurrection of God's Son. It's also the Jewish Passover, which is when the angel of death passes over all the Jewish households, and anyone doesn't have the lamb or the ram's blood smeared on their doorpost, their firstborn sons get killed. So 3 different Passovers all take place in Aries. Whenever you hear ram, lamb, shepherd, or ram's horn, that's what you're talking about, Aries. Taurus is the bull. When you look at the sky and you see Taurus during the season where it's supposed to be, you know you need to put the plow on the bull so that you can plant the seed so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. So whenever you're talking about bull, ox, calf, or cow, you're talking about Taurus. Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy. It's the story of Achilles. So whenever you hear twins or brothers, you're talking about Gemini. Cancer is the crab, and it's the sideways moving creature. So just as the sun rises a degree on its axis starting on December 25th, it stops on June 21st, and for 3 days it rises to the same degree, moving sideways. And then on June 25th, it lowers a degree. The crab in the ancient Egyptian times was known as the scarab. So whenever you hear crab or beetle, you're talking about Cancer. Leo is the king. He's the lion. He's the king of the jungle. The ruling planet, or he's the king of the Sahara, whatever you want to call it. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So whenever you're talking about lion, lioness, or cub, you're talking about Leo. Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk. Remember before when we said that you planted Taurus? Well, the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So whenever you hear virgin, wheat, or woman even, because Virgo is the sign of the woman, whereas the man is Aquarius, virgin, woman, wheat, grain, seed, barley, corn, all these grainy things that you harvest during Virgo. Sometimes when they're referring to Virgo, they'll be talking about the bread, or they'll be talking about the beer, where the beer comes from barley. They'll be talking about the corn, which used to be wages paid back in the day. Now, Libra is the justice. The scale is the balance, the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. The Jews always celebrate the new year around the fall equinox. Now, 8 days after the Jewish New Year, you have a day called Yom Kippur, which is a holiday for the Jewish people, which is the day of judgment. Well, of course, the day of judgment happens in Libra, the judge, the scales, the justice. Libra is also wine season, which is when you plant the grapes in Taurus, you could press the wine here. It's also olive oil season. You crush the olives to make the oil. So law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court, law-related things, wine vineyard, wine press, grapes even, all wine-related things. Olive oil, that's Libra. Now, Scorpio is the scorpion, and he is the betrayer. When a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips. It's why the mafia has the kiss of death, and it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss. So the sun is judged in Libra. It's betrayed in Scorpio. Finally, in Sagittarius, this is where the bow and the arrow shoot the sun and inflict further punishment on the sun. This is where the sun dies. Why? Because on December 21st, the sun is at its lowest point. It cannot rise any lower. It's dead. It's the dead of winter. It remains at that lowest level for 3 days, which is why Jesus was dead for 3 days. Remember the crab? It walks sideways for 3 days? Does that here too. And then on December 25th, Capricorn, the sun comes back to life. The birth of God's son rises a degree, and now it starts to make its way back up to the top of Cancer, where it'll then walk sideways for 3 days and then start dropping a degree a day. And then it's just the same pattern. So whenever you hear a horse, bow and arrow, spear, or horseman, you're talking about Sagittarius. And finally, you have Capricorn, who's the goat, because the goat climbs the mountain. And it's just a metaphor, because if you look at the right, you'll see the zodiac wheel. You'll see Capricorn is all the way at the bottom, whereas the top of the mountain is the top of Cancer. That's the summer solstice. See, that's the summer solstice. And then what happens is the kingdom of heaven is in Leo, which is the next sign over, because the sun actually rules Leo. So you have the sun at its height in Cancer, and then the kingdom in Leo. So that's the glory of the sun. So when you're talking about the goat, because he likes to climb the mountain, well, he starts up this great magical quest in Capricorn. Imagine the sun at the bottom, climbing a degree to the left, a degree a day. That's what he does. So let's just jump right into this, guys. There's a lot of patterns here to decode, but there's not so many slides, but it's okay. Nehemiah is only about 25 pages long. And I got to remind you guys that I got this big fucking grandma text, this big textbook that I use. It's so that I can highlight it. I don't have just a normal size Bible. I have one of those, like, for people who can't see Bibles, so that I can highlight it and just go through it. So even at that size, it's only 25 pages. So let's get into it. Oh no. Please pause a second. What's up, guys? So you didn't actually hear what I just basically did. I had to perform surgery on this PowerPoint. I ran it on one computer. I created it with dual sides. The scripture on the left and the explanation on the right. And then when I crossed it over to the other computer to upload it, it got screwed up. So we're good now. I fixed everything. I was screaming, but we're good. So let's go into this. Give back to them immediately their fields, vineyards, olive groves, and houses, and also the interest you are charging them. 1% of the money, grain, new wine, and olive oil. Well, the vineyards and the olive oil, or the olive groves, are Libra. The grain is Virgo. These are connecting signs on the zodiac. Okay. Each day, 1 ox, 6 choice sheep, and some poultry were prepared for me. And every 10 days, an abundant supply of wine of all kinds. So the ox is Taurus. The sheep is Aries. Those are connecting signs. The wine is Libra. Libra and Aries are opposing signs. So in this one little passage, you have 2 connecting signs, 2 opposing signs. Very deliberate by using this choice of words, guys. Besides the 7,337 male and female slaves, they also had 245 male and female singers. There were 736 horses, 245 mules, 435 camels, and 6,720 donkeys. Now, guys and dolls, I want to remind you that what I am teaching is but one holy science in the Bible. It is not the only one. It just happens to be the oldest and the most prevalent. And I've traced it back through ancient texts. However, I mean, Garrick is great with the decoding of the Bible, but I need a true numerologist to get on the channel to go over this. But ignore the numbers for now, just astrotheologically. The male and the female are Aquarius, the man and Virgo, the woman. The horse is Sagittarius. The camel is Camelopardalis, which is in Gemini. Now, Sagittarius and Gemini are opposing signs. The donkey is Acellus Borealis, which is in Cancer. Cancer and Gemini are connecting signs. Also, Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius are 3/4 of the mutable signs. Remember, I started explaining to you that we're going to start adding things to these decodings, such as pointing out when there's patterns with mutable, cardinal, or fixed signs. And I figure 50% or 75 or 100% of them would be enough. If it was just one, that would be one thing. But if it's 50% and it's so small like this, it's significant enough. Now, bear with me just a sec. The first of our ground meal, of our grain offerings, of the fruit of all our trees, and of our new wine and olive oil. The grain is Virgo. The wine and olive oil are Libra. These are connecting signs. And then we have the last one here, finally. In those days, I saw people in Judah treading wine presses on the Sabbath and bringing in grain and loading it on donkeys, together with wine, grapes, figs, and all other kinds of loads. People from Tyre who lived in Jerusalem were bringing in fish and all kinds of merchandise. So, wine press is Libra and the grain is Virgo. These are connecting signs, Libra and Virgo. The figs, I've mentioned this, they don't come up very often, but they're harvested during Cancer. And you know what else happens in Cancer? The donkey, Assalis borealis, which is in Cancer. And the fish is Pisces. Cancer and Libra are one half of the cardinal signs. Virgo and Pisces are one half of the mutable signs. They're also opposing signs. So there's not much to Nehemiah. There are definite, you can't deny these patterns or that this cipher works. But I'm really sorry. This is probably going to sound so shitty and chopped up and with pauses and I don't know, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this, and we're gonna skip the Book of Esther because there's nothing that the way that I break things down can be broken down in Esther. However, the next one is Job, and there is probably more in Job than anything. Now, Job, guys and girls, is the oldest story in the entire Bible. It's the oldest story, and it's not even particularly close. You thought Genesis was the first? It's not. That's just where they decided to place it during the Synod of Jamnia in 100 AD. We'll get into all that stuff. Have a good night.